Welcome everybody to the 2022 APS Audio-Visual Spring National. Many thanks to the judging panel for this event. The chair of the judging panel was Alia Norton, supported by Steve Malarkey and Dale Murphy. Dale Murphy was also the exhibition director. This showcase is divided into three sections. The first of those is the Merit Award-winning AVs, which will be shown in full. This will be followed by the Medal Award-winning AVs, also shown in full. Herbert Medallion winners will also be identified. Finally, the acceptances AVs will be listed but not shown. We're going to start with the Merit Awards. And the first of these is Cuba, A Country in Waiting by Pam Rickson.
Cuba is a country waiting for change, waiting for the 21st century to arrive. Cuba is caught in a time warp. The revolution is over. It has been over for 50 years. But the evidence of revolution is everywhere. Street art and murals depict the communist leaders Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, heroes of the past and present. In Havana, the derelict buildings with demolished facades are still homes for many families. These old buildings are just waiting to be completely torn down and replaced. The old Chevys and Fords and Chryslers and Russian Ladas are either proudly maintained or simply just held together with wire and a slap of paint due to the necessity of transport. Cuba is waiting for tourists to bring the tourist dollar, or maybe pesos. Modern hotels are waiting to be built. A few already exist. People gather and wait on a street corner of Havana for internet and phone connection. The internet is mostly non-existent or painfully slow, but they wait anyway. The small grocer shops are waiting for supplies. The shelves are mostly empty. But there is always plenty of Havana rum and cigars. Farmers depend on bullocks and oxen and horse-drawn equipment. The main crops grown in Cuba are tobacco, sugarcane, rice, coffee, and potatoes. People ride horses as regular transport, and horse-drawn vehicles are common throughout Cuba. The roads in Cuba are always waiting repair. Villages are waiting electricity and plumbing. The staple diet of many Cubans is rice and beans and tubers called yucca and yams, and often cooked outdoors. But Cubans are patient people. They are used to waiting. They are used to delays. It is the way of life. Cuba may have been closed off from the world for half a century, but it is inevitable that more tourists will come, the lifestyle will change. But the change will be slow as Cuba awaits its future.
Congratulations, Pam. The next merit goes to Cynthia Henley-Smith for her AV Bloodline of Roses.
Roses are perhaps the best known and loved of all flowers, and Adelaide is a city with the ideal climate to grow them. The flower's existence has been established in fossils of 35 million years ago. It has been cultivated for 5,000 years, mostly for its fragrant oils. The earliest domesticated plants were grown in Europe by the 13th century, but most flowered only in spring. By the end of the 18th century, plants had been introduced to Europe from China. These had recurrent flowering and included reds and yellows. From these plants, crossbred varieties have spread throughout the world. George Ross of Montacute in the Adelaide Hills supplied fruit trees to orchardists in the area, but he loved roses and was the first South Australian to supply them to wholesale businesses from 1902. He taught his son Alexander to bud them, and the young gardener's experiments surrounded the property. As an adult, Alexander shifted to new premises in the Adelaide suburb of Edwardstown, growing only roses, which he sold wholesale. He was one of the founders of the Rose Society and judge at their shows. His son Dean joined the business in 1952. When there was no fresh soil for new rose plantings at the Edwardstown property, Dean and his wife Maureen moved to Bedford Park, another Adelaide suburb, and began selling directly to the public. In 1979, the same problem was solved by buying land in Wollonga, south of Adelaide. Dean was particularly interested in the old varieties. For the previous 9 years, he had been importing many of these from overseas and made available to the public those which thrived in the Adelaide climate. He became an authority on them and wrote 8 books on rose history and culture. In 1989, the business had its first bred flower, Pierre de Ronsard, given plant patent protection. The following year, rose breeders were granted Australian plant breeders' rights and thereby royalties for their creations. With every plant sold, a payment is sent to the breeder. After Dean's death in 1993, Maureen was joined by her son Andrew, who has now taken over the management role. They have decided to concentrate on Australian bred varieties. Andrew's main interest is in hybridising, and trials of over 250,000 seeds are being carried out in Australia and overseas. Now, plants are sold throughout southern Australia and in places with a similar climate. As the oldest rose production nursery in Australia, the bloodline of the Ross family has carried on the preservation and development of the bloodline of the very best roses, making them available to all who love these beautiful flowers.
Congratulations, Cynthia. An emerit is awarded to Japanese Gardens by Wal Close.
Japanese gardens are meticulously cared for, and while they have several elements in common, their designs have varied over their long history, beginning in the 9th century. The design of the garden at Kinkakuji is based on the 9th century Paradise Garden. Its symbols represent the relationship between heaven and earth and humanity. The arrangement aims to resemble a Buddhist paradise. The pond garden also dates from the 9th century. It is a site for relaxation. The dry garden of Zen Buddhism originates in the 14th century. The sand or gravel represents sea or river, and the rocks are islands. It is spacious and simple and is ideal for meditation. Elements of the 16th century tea garden, such as stepping stones or a bridge, will slow the visitor's approach to the tea house. Often there is a middle gate with a water-filled stone basin for ritual cleansing. Once inside, the visitor will appreciate the peaceful view that the simplicity of the garden provides. Dating from the 17th century, the hill and pond garden creates a miniature of a natural landscape, which can be appreciated while walking long winding paths. Also appearing in the 17th century is the stroll garden. If the path is walked in a clockwise direction, specially designed views will appear. It often includes features from the other garden types. The courtyard gardens appeared in the 17th century and are found adjacent to buildings. They use features from Zen, hill and tea gardens to turn small spaces into beauty spots. It is clear that Japanese gardens are designed to capture natural beauty through simplicity. Each garden is a place for peacefulness and meditation.
Congratulations, Will. Nakasendo Way, the Kiso Road, by Wall Close, gets both a merit and the Herbert Medallion for Best Documentary.
We started our walk along the Kiso Road section of the Nakasendo Way near Nakazugawa. A pleasant walk through farmland and small settlements brought us to Magome, a thriving township. After leaving Magome, a climb over a ridge took us to Sumago and an evening relaxation in community baths fed by a hot spring. Sumago is a hilly town with well-preserved ancient features. This day was hard. At each track intersection, if a member asked which way, our charming guide Ayuki would point to the steepest path and say, "Up." Soon the question was not asked. The steepest walk was up the old Hida Highway to the Jizo Pass. As usual, the pass has its guardians. This one protects pack ponies. Because of the war, only a few of these remain. We moved on to Kaida Kogen, a beautiful plateau. The sacred volcano, Mount Ontake, dominates the view. Our evening rest was at Kizo Fukushima. The view across Kizo Fukushima to our next destination held great promise. A short train ride closed the distance to the start of our climb up the Nakasendo Way to the pass Tori Toge for our walk down into the Nare Valley. We entered a fantasy land. Conversation stopped. There were glimpses of Nare. Nare was a pleasant, quiet town. And we moved through and travelled to our destination near the castle at Matsumoto.
Congratulations, Wal. A merit and the Herbert Medallion for Best Photography goes to David Bignell for his AV People at Flinders Street Station.
Now arriving at Flinders Street.
Congratulations, David. Joy Melchiori gets a merit and the Herbert Medallion for Best Original Script and Narration for her AV, The Many Uses of the Common Doorstep.
The many uses of the common doorstep. A doorstep is commonly known as a step or a series of steps in front of an outside door. A whole range of activities can occur on these steps. You can sit on these steps to prepare your herbs for your evening meal. What better place could you sit quietly to read the morning paper? Your boss can hold a company meeting before you all head off to work. Or you can have a little rest if you are currently out of work. Oh look, why not just set up your whole shop on the doorstep? Handbag, anyone? Let's now take a moment out of our day to call our wives and girlfriends. Or maybe just ask your girlfriend out for a cheap doorstep date. If you get lost, you can sit and study the map while your partner is, clearly of no assistance. Those that are older and wiser can sit and ponder on how much the world has changed. Others can take time to reflect and decide where the next step is. Or you can just play hide and seek in the corner of a really big door. You can lovingly wait for your master to come home. And lastly, you can just park your boat at your doorstep so there is less chance of getting your feet wet. Which doorstep will you choose to sit on when the next opportunity presents itself?
Congratulations, Joy. The final merit goes to John Hodgson for his AV Exposed.
– 2022 marks 60 years since I first began taking photographs. I began with a Kodak folding camera lent to me by my dad, and I have to say that the images I took at the time were pretty ordinary. However, unlike many amateur photographers, at no time in my photographic life did I ever decide to specialise in any particular kind of subject matter. I joined the Australian Photographic Society in 1980, and since that time I've learned to photograph almost anything that catches my eye. Anything from peeling paint to pretty girls. Let me take you on a journey through a variety of photographic subjects, each of which has appealed to me in some way. Let me start with rust and peeling paint, and quote Chinese philosopher Confucius, "Everything has its beauty, but not everyone sees it." We all walk past these kinds of subjects whenever we're out and about, or even at home, but many of us fail to see the abstract art inadvertently created by the passage of time, or failure to maintain, or both. Selective composition is a key part of turning a piece of scrap into a work of art. In 2003, when I bought my first digital camera, a compact, not a DSLR, I was impressed by its close-up capabilities and started to develop an interest in still life photography. I was still working full-time and a winter of wet weekends encouraged me to look for household items as still life subjects and to primarily use window light and reflectors to create appealing images. A completely different form of photography was brought to me by the Adelaide Camera Club, to which I've belonged since 2006. Every year, in late January, the club has organised a beach photo shoot, at which we have photographed aspiring models. Harsh summer light, heavy cloud, or even rain have created exposure challenges of various kinds, but overall, some pleasing shots have been achieved, which have found their way into the models' folios. Three visits to Southern Africa, Namibia in 2006, Botswana in 2012, and South Africa in 2019, began and developed my interest in wildlife photography, which in turn resulted in my buying longer and faster lenses and learning the quite different techniques required by comparison with my previous photographic interests. Being able to review images on the back of a digital camera allowed the necessary adjustments in terms of light and depth of field, and I was eventually able to come to grips with the challenges presented by wildlife photography. Between 2007 and 2010, I was faced with a new photographic challenge. I was invited by the University of South Australia to be the chief photographer for a book to be entitled Wildlife of Greater Adelaide. While photographing animals and birds no longer presented any great challenges, a big part of my task was to photograph invertebrates. Fortunately, the editors of the book were able to organise 2 school holiday sessions at the South Australian Museum entitled Bring Us Your Bugs, a competition which encouraged school children to bring samples of as many kinds of invertebrates as they could find. Scientists at the museum then placed the invertebrates on suitable backgrounds for me to photograph with a macro lens. I was also invited by the university to be the sole photographer for another book entitled Adelaide, Water of a City. In that instance, I was simply given each draft chapter as it was produced, and it was left to me to decide on the kinds of images best suited to those chapters. Some of the images taken for these 2 books also found their way into 2 other books published for the university, A Guide to Urban Wildlife and Our Country. For most of my working life, I was a town planner, and that meant I spent a lot of time dealing with architects and with urban design issues. That in turn encouraged an interest in photographing architecture and urban details. Much of that photography was done in Adelaide for obvious reasons, but travel interstate and overseas also created opportunities to pursue this kind of imaging. Perhaps my involvement in photographing rust and peeling paintwork encouraged me to concentrate on architectural detail rather than entire buildings, but I also enjoy photographing urban settings. One of my enduring photographic interests has been landscape and seascape photography, and since I retired, I've spent a lot of time in outback Australia and also in New Zealand, looking for appealing landscape images. As I get older, one of the key components of good landscape photography, early morning light, is becoming more of a challenge, but late afternoon light is always accessible. So there you have it. There are attractive images to be captured in any setting. One of the joys of my photographic life has been seeing beauty all around me, and not necessarily where most people see it. Don't bore viewers of your images by showing them something they see on a regular basis. Instead, show them something they might see regularly, but not in the way you've presented it.
Congratulations, John. Okay, let's move on to the medal winners. In third place for the bronze medal is Peter Rupus's AV, The Streets Aren't for Dreaming Now.
Wasted and wounded, it ain't what the moon did. God, what I paid for now. See you tomorrow, if Frank can I borrow a couple of bucks from you to go waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you go waltzing Matilda with me. I'm an innocent victim of a blinded alley, and I'm tired of all these soldiers here. Speaks English and everything's broken, and my stasis are soaking wet. To go waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you go waltzing Matilda with me. Now the dogs are barking and the taxi cab's parking. A lot they can do for me. I begged you to stab me, you tore my shirt open, and I'm down on my knees tonight. Old Bushmills, I staggered, you buried the dagger, your silhouette window light. To go waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you go waltzing Matilda with me. Now I lost my St. Christopher, now that I've kissed her, and the one-armed bandit knows, and the maverick Chinaman in the cold-blooded signs, and the girls down by the striptease shows go. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you go waltzing Matilda with me. No, I don't want your sympathy. The fugitives say that the streets aren't for dreaming now. Manslaughter, dragnets, and the ghosts that sell memories. They want a piece of the action anyhow. Go waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you go waltzing Matilda with me. And you can ask any sailor, and the keys from the jailer, and the old man in wheelchair must know that Matilda's the defendant. She killed about 100, and she follows wherever you may go. Old Saint Matilda, old Saint Matilda, you go, old Saint Matilda, with me. And it's a battered old suitcase to a hotel someplace, and a wound that will never heal. No prima donna, the perfume is on an old shirt that is stained with blood and whiskey. And good night to the street sweepers, the night watchmen, flame keepers, and good night, Matilda, too.
Congratulations, Peter. In second place for the silver medal is Joy Melchiori's AV photographing nuns. Joy also wins the Herbert Medallion for top novice. Congratulations, Joy.
I always had a fascination with photographing nuns when I was travelling overseas. These two were ever so friendly and happy to please. I wondered, was it their destiny from an early age? I wondered, were they enlightened as they quietly read each page? I was entranced as I watched them walk reverently along the street. From overhead, I even loved photographing the shadows extending from their feet. This nun appeared to have her very own guardians protecting her from way up high. This nun was my favourite. She owned the moment. Time stood still as she marched on by. In her black attire, she made such a bold statement against the coloured street facade. I saw them everywhere, but I guess when you're travelling in Italy, that's actually not hard. And finally, I respected their faith and dedication to the cross. A sure ticket to heaven, I thought, first class, straight to their boss.
Congratulations again, Joey. And in first place, the gold medal goes to Maggie Tan for her audio-visual Journey to a Forever Home. Congratulations, Maggie.
This is the story about the stray cats and their journey from the cold, lonely streets to the loving homes they can call their own. Sunny Days Rescue and Rehab is the only animal shelter that specifically rescued wild-born cats. Since initiation 5 years ago, they have forever altered the lives of over 1,000 cats. In the beginning, these cats are brought in humanely once they have been identified as unowned. They can often come as entire colonies, pregnant and nursing mothers, orphaned kittens, FIV-positive cats, as well as those sick and injured. Being born in the wild, the cats are not raised with human interactions. They have never been hand-fed, and they do not know how to respond when they are being pet. At Sunny Days, every cat at the cottage receives one-on-one attention from volunteers who have been trained to work with scared cats. And because each cat is a unique individual with different needs, they are given all the time they need to slowly learn to be around humans. Every curious look, every gentle sniff, and every brave paw forward are all reasons for hope among the volunteers. I will continue to follow these cats' journeys because it's such a heartwarming experience to see them finally be accepted into their new families.
Well done, Maggie. So let's move on to the acceptances. Xantheria by Cynthia Henley Smith. The Commander Islands by Trish McCausland. Where Have All the Flowers Gone by Cynthia Henley Smith. The Beehives of Pernalulu by Ruth Benson. Quarantine at Point Nepean by Pam Rickson. Outdoor Gallery by Cynthia Henley Smith. Melbourne, the Street Art Capital of Australia by Sam McFarlane. Hotels by David Shetliff. Glenda Cornell, Artist by Liz Delar. Geelong, Our Town by Peter Rupert. Echoes in Rain by John Hodgson. Death in Pamoosh by Anne Dakin. A Sunny Day in Italy by Ruth Benson. Thank you to all of our participants and viewers, and congratulations to all of our winners. We look forward to everyone participating in future APS audiovisual group activities.